Lobo.
Hi, I'm a girl who loves Supergirl.
And I'm a boy who loves Supergirl.
And we're here to give you a review and Easter eggs of Supergirl episode 14, Truth, Justice, and the American Way. Hi, I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson, your girl on Supergirl, and with me today is the awesome...
Jason Inman, a boy who loves Supergirl.
Yay!
In a platonic way. Like reading a comic book way.
In a respectful way.
Yes.
Let's respectfully talk about the good in this episode. I really liked how when James confronted Kara kind of dealing with Supergirl and her morality in this episode, he always called her a hero. He never called her a heroine.
You mean specifically like the fact because in this episode they had Max Lord locked up.
Yes, and he
James
thought
was
that
like,
was
hey,
questionable.
don't be Guantanamo Bay over here, Supergirl.
But by him, yes. By him using the word hero instead of heroine, he's not immediately taking her a notch below characters like Superman, who she's constantly compared to, or even the Flash and Arrow that are kind of, tangentially within the same universe.
Can I ask a random question? Is calling someone a heroine a step down, you think?
I don't think necessarily.
To me, they're the same word.
But it's like somehow some actresses prefer to be called actors instead of actresses because why do two people of different genders who do the same job deserve different titles? And I thought that was a nice, respectful way to approach Supergirl.
I will say that I thought that this episode had, I think, so far, the best scene of the entire series. And that was where...
Which one was that?
Where when Kara and the Professor Alien, as I'm going to call him, Professor Alien.
Professor Alphonse.
Oh, is that what his name?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to call him Professor Alien. Professor Alien and Supergirl were trapped in the cages, and Professor Alien got to explain that he literally only carted this drug around to support his family, and he got locked up for 15 years, and when he got to Earth, he decided that he was going to help people because he could teach about the stars.
He was going to bring that to Earth.
Well, I think it was a really great scene because, one, it showed that everybody from Fort Ross is not going to be a terrible person, which is absolutely right, but also it pulled back the wool from Supergirl's eyes, and she got to realize that there's a lot more gray in the world than black and white.
And it's kind of your classic story or idiom of the man who steals a loaf of bread to feed a starving family, but in a cooler superhero way.
Yes, the Les Miserables.
Yes.
Les Miserables.
Les Miserables.
Les Miserables. It's that, but also that actor who played Professor Alien, I thought was great. I thought he was really good. I actually hope we really see him again. And I'm going to throw this out there. I would love to see him as an Emil Hamilton to Supergirl.
Ooh, interesting. I would love that.
Yeah.
I also think that, because tying him into the Master Jailer, who's kind of the villain of the week of this episode, I thought the fight was amazing in this episode.
All the fights were great, but I think the best one for me was the one where he chained her up as an X.
Yeah, she had the Samson pose where she was tied up to the pillars.
Because usually, like, when I see a comic book villain that has chains, I'm immediately like, go back to the 90s. Get back to the Image comic books.
I thought they were really, really intelligently used, though. The way they choreographed that fight and at the speed that it was at was really good.
Totally. Master Jailer, I thought, was well done. I thought they really made him a strong threat to Supergirl, which was surprising.
Who would have thought we'd ever think that about Master Jailer?
Like, I mean, right off the beat, his name is dumb, but like, but they did a really good job. I thought he looked cool, and I actually even thought the special effect of how his mask went, off, like, looked good.
It was really well. It was consistently cool. Let's talk about the Easter eggs in this episode of Supergirl. First, most obviously, is Siobhan Smythe, Kara's in-Catco rival.
Who's that supposed to be?
Well, she is actually Silver Banshee, a John Burns action comic Superman villain girl with
such a great design.
One of the best looks. Siobhan Smythe is actually her new 52 name. Before that, she was known as Siobhan McDougal. I think the alliteration is a big step up, and I hope we get to see her in those pretty cool makeups that's been floating around the internet.
My favorite Easter egg from this episode is might be more of a prediction.
All right.
But I'm putting it right here in the ground as an Easter egg. There's a scene very early on with Hank Henshaw and Supergirl's sister,
Alex,
and they're in the DEO, and they see a picture of Master Jailer. Or they hear about, they're like, oh, this could be an alien bounty hunter.
Yes.
And Alex is like, do you think it's... And then Hank Henshaw goes, no. If it was him, we would know it. And I think that they are referring to the most famous of alien bounty hunters, Lobo. It has been teased several times that Lobo could possibly come on this show, and they could do the new 52 design, I think, and pull it off.
Okay.
Because it wouldn't require...
Sexy Lobo?
Yeah, they could do Sexy Lobo, and I think it could work. And also, I think Sexy Lobo would be a great opponent for this Supergirl.
All right.
But I think they're talking about Lobo.
Speaking of things that we think they're talking about, there's a scene where Kara says to Master Jailer, I thought Mass was more of what they did in the other city, which I think is a not so subtle jab or call out to Gotham City, which is going to come up in the DC Cinematic Universe pretty soon here. It is time to talk about the bad in this week's episode of Supergirl, and I just have to put out a PSA. Stop letting James Olsen into the DEO. Okay?
Whoop.
There's no reason to be here. And then on top of bringing him in, because McCad Brooks is a pretty cool actor and we want him around, you're going to take the untrained civilian and put him in the room with all the weapons and just hope that it all works out. I understand that you're trying to do the thing where he's your morality, he's Kara's moral compass in this episode.
But he seems to have a key to the DEO now.
Yeah, like, I get it, man. He's good looking, but you can't let him in there at the drop of a hat.
He has the guest pass. It'd be like having
It's like letting Iris into Star Labs and Flash all the time. Like, there's no reason for her to be there.
No, it'd be like letting Iris in the Pentagon, is what it would
be.
Oh, what are you doing here? Oh.
Yeah, like I cannot stand for it. Don't do it anymore, please.
Speaking of another thing that's related to Catco, I did not like every time they cut back to Catco in this episode. Did not like it at all. I love Cat Grant in the show, but I felt every Cat Grant scene in this episode was terrible. And I did not like the assistant. I get that they're setting up the assistant to become Silver Banshee, so we'll probably see her in 3 or 4 episodes. But that storyline just didn't work for me because the Master Jailer storyline I thought was so interesting that every time we went back to the office or the weird scene where James and Kat were just drinking on the job at the balcony.
I actually thought that was a really well-acted scene.
It was a well-acted scene.
But totally out of place.
But we're just drinking bourbon in the middle of the workday. It was so odd because, again, Master Jailer was odd. And then another thing that was odd for me, I appreciated the resolution of Astra's death, that we got to see a Kryptonian funeral. I appreciated a Kryptonian funeral, but...
Where did the pod come from?
Well, where did the pod come, and where was it going? Because they're going to fly all the way back to the Krypton, to Rao? I don't know. Anyways, I don't like the Kryptonians in the show.
I don't either.
I was fine with Astra, but now that Astra is dead, I really feel that the Kryptonian storyline is over. I'm done with it. And I don't like this army of Kryptonians that seems to be mostly male.
Well,
fighting a girl, or a woman, I mean, and
you can call her a girl. She's called Supergirl.
True. Let's go with that. But to me, as a fan of Superman stuff and Smallville, this to me comes off as a repeat of season 9 of Smallville, where Clark fought a whole army of Kryptonians.
Well, there are
and Man of Steel.
There are some people on Supergirl who worked on Smallville.
That's true. That's true.
And I would say that we talked earlier, especially Jason, about how much we liked this Professor Alien. And he's a non-Kryptonian character, so why not show us other non-Kryptonians? Daxamites, hello, there's a lot of potential there.
There's a lot of potential to say that maybe Lobo was one of the other prisoners. I'm trying to get Lobo on the show.
Let's give you our crazy theory of the week. Let's let our guest Jason Inman start us out on that.
Okay, I have such a crazy theory that I almost think it might be a theory for season 2 of Supergirl.
Fine.
Okay? That's how crazy we go. So Max Lord was let out of the DEO super prison, right?
Yes.
And we also saw the scene where Kara went into her fortress or whatever it's called and talked to her mother. And when she mentioned Myriad, which we know is some sort of computer program something, that the hologram went burp, burp, burp. I can't talk about that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Myriad is going to be some weird Kryptonian computer system or something like that. I think that somewhere during the season, Maxwell Lord is going to figure out what the Kryptonians are up to, take a piece of Myriad, and combobulate it and do it whatever, and build a system to track Supergirl that will be called OMAC.
Oh, dang!
And season 2 will be fighting versions of OMACs.
Wow.
That's my crazy theory.
I love that. That's super crazy. Well, my crazy theory is based on the Gotham Easter egg that we dropped before, and I think that before the end of the season, I think we're going to have a visitor from Gotham, and I think since the trend of the show is to just introduce new love interests from Kara left, right, and center, I think we're getting a sexy, sexy Nightwing before this series is over.
That is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot more crazier than my one-man Army Corp guy with the mohawk. But let's go with it.
All right, let's rate this episode Truth, Justice, and the American Way. Jason.
I am going to have to give this, out of a scale of 1 Kryptonian crystal to 5 being the best, I'm going to give it a 4. I really like this episode. I think it's one of the strongest of the season, and it almost got a 5. It almost got a 5 simply for the Professor Alien scenes, but the Catco stuff I felt brought it down a notch, so I had to give it 4.
All right, I'm actually going to rate it lower than you. I'm going to give it 3 Kryptonian crystals.
She doesn't like Professor Alien.
I really like Professor Alien. I just think that that with the two different worlds that we're trying to incorporate, Catco and the DEO and the Supergirl stuff, I just think that the pacing on it was really, really weak. I think it felt rushed, and I think it felt muddled. I think it is one of the better episodes of the season. But, you know, my bar right now is kind of like the Bizarro Girl episode, and it didn't live up to that for me. So 3 Kryptonian crystals from me.
She doesn't like Professor Alien.
So overall, we thought that this was a really good episode of Supergirl with a surprisingly great villain.
Master Jailer was good.
Who knew?
Who would have thought we'd ever say that?
And before we go, Jason has a question that he wants to ask you all in the comments section.
I want everybody in the comments to tell us, because we like Professor Alien quite a bit. I want to know in the comments below, what non-Kryptonian alien would you like to see on this show? Like, as a prisoner of Fort Ross. Like, I mentioned Lobo a couple times. There's so many possibilities out there. So what alien out there in the DC universe would you like to see as a former prisoner of Fort Ross?
Blackfire. Say Blackfire.
Ooh, Blackfire would be a good choice. There you go.
And don't forget that if you like this show, you can support us on patreon.com/Jawiin, Jawiin, and keep our Kryptonian crystals lit here.
Yep, because that also supports a Legends of Tomorrow recap show that I do every Friday, the same as the girl on Supergirl. So keep all those shows running and keep our crazy theories coming. Lobo!
All right, where can we find you all over the internet?
You can find me on Twitter at Jawiin, Jawiin, and also on DCL Access every weekday.
No way! Don't forget to go down and click that subscribe button if you want to see all the Girl on Supergirl episodes, all the Legend of Tomorrow episodes, everything that we are doing here. Jason, thank you so much for joining us this week on
Thank
Girl
you,
on Supergirl.
Person who doesn't like Professor Alien.
Yeah, thank you so much for watching. I have been Ashley Victoria Robinson. He has been Jason Inman, your girl and boy on Supergirl. Be safe and make good choices.
Lobo.